has enough, you better go get it now. They're also going to be coming around to clear off your spot. So if you're done, please move your dishes aside so they can get to them and not be too disruptive. I told them they can get them done. There's no need to kind of take another break right now to really do that. So if you're done, move your plates so that the banquet staff can collect them, or if you want to put them at one of these trays, you can do that as well. We're going to get started. We still have quite a bit to cover, so I think this afternoon is going to go a little bit faster than this morning. We might not do a lot of this, okay, click here, drop down here, but we're going to try to give you what you need to get started. For those of you that are going to be reporting that has never used the system, we're going to talk offline about getting you some training. So you're going to have to email me and say, hey, Amanda, I'm going to have to use the DCED system, and we're going to need training because some of you have never used HMIS and will need the training. Those of you that are in other systems and need the training, we're going to have to reach out to your contact folks at your county to let them know that you're going to need training. One of the things we'll try to do, hopefully I'll remember to do, is when I email them to say, hey, look, we need to have a discussion, we'll also have a discussion about getting folks trained that are going to be using the new system, okay? So it's going to be Brian. Dan's still eating his lunch, so don't ask any questions for Dan until he comes back up here. No, I'm just joking. Bother him while he's eating. Brian's going to get started. I have to step out for a little bit, but I'll be back.
Thank you.
And behave. No, I'm just joking.
Okay, now we've done the client stuff and the program enrollment stuff. We're going to do just a few quick things inside the program, which is basically the services and referrals. Services, here's basically a complete list of all the past services that you can provide to your clients. Now, services, and we'll cover that during kind of the management setup part, each service needs to be set up with a specific availability, funding type. So not all services may be available to all clients within your program. It's going to all depend on how the service is funded during that fiscal year. And we'll kind of explain that during the demo part of it. So we're going to quickly go in. We're going to go back to Benjamin Smith real quick. After it does that. Back into the program and services area, and of course into the program themselves. Now, as you can see here, they have an enrollment, no exit date. That means they're still enrolled. Down here, we've basically got the services provided. Basically, this is where any services you've provided to them will show up. There's none here. Basically, to create a new service, it's pretty much as simple as hitting that button, and you basically enter in the date for the service that you are providing. Now, the system is going to basically build this service list depending on that date, because we're going to show you that each fiscal year the program needs to set up their services. So depending on the date you enter, the list will possibly be different depending on your specific program. And this is pretty much a standard path-defined list. So say this person's getting case management, that's pretty much all you have to enter. You can enter notes if you want. You basically hit add, and that's pretty much it. Each service is a one-time thing. So every service instance that you provide to the client, you basically enter through the system like that. Now, if you want to review a service, all you have to do is click on it, and the service will basically re-pop up so you can take a look at it. Now, as you see here, we kind of lock out the date and everything. If you made a mistake and said, oh, that should have been a different service, you can basically easily just delete it. It'll go away, and you can open it up and re-enter it in as the proper service that you wanted to enter. So it's pretty straightforward on how to do services. Now we're going to kind of go to referrals themselves. This is the complete list of all the referrals themselves. Now, unlike the services, the referrals aren't dependent upon any kind of funding. These referrals can be provided to clients at any time in the program during the fiscal year. Kind of the main differences are services are what you provide directly to the client as the service provider, while referrals are basically requests for service to or from outside organizations. Like community health, you're referring them for service to some other provider. So now we're going to basically go back, and before we go on, there is referral status that we want to talk about, and these are kind of from the past definitions. There's two types of referrals, or at least statuses of referrals. The first is what we call an assisted referral. That means the client has been referred, the application's been completed, and been sent to the other agency. That's kind of when you first enter a referral into the system, everything is labeled as assisted. Now, attained is basically once you've received confirmation, either through self-report or from working with the other organization, that the client has received the service that you referred them for, that's when we call attained. So it's kind of like assisted, asking for the service, attained, the client actually received the service. And you actually have to go into the system and update the referrals that have been attained. And this information is reported on the past annual report, both for services and referrals, so that it is important that you enter each instance into the system. So we're going to go back into the system. Same thing under the program. Directly below there is going to be the referrals. And it's kind of the same process. It'll show all the referrals you provided here. As you can see, there's none. You basically hit the referral button. It'll pop up. You enter a referral date of when you actually provided the referral. And you've got all these referral types. So you basically select, and we say, oh, this is a community health referral. Now, we also have this optional agency where you can enter the agency that you sent it to. So maybe it's a certain county mental health. Now, what the system does is when you save this information, all you have to do is hit complete, pretty much 2-3 fields. The system will actually build a database of these agencies that you refer to. So if you refer to the same agency over and over again, all you have to do is basically click a couple letters. As we see here, if you just go like county, it'll basically come up with the list, so it's easy to select, so you don't have to retype all that information over again. Now, as you can see here, pretty much the same principle. You can click on the referral, and it gives a little edit delete. If you want to delete it, if it's a mistake, get it out of there. Or if you want to review it, you can click edit, and it'll load. Each referral, when it's first entered, has a status of assisted. Now, if you learn later that the client did receive that service, you basically open it up with the edit, and you've got this little attained box where you open it up, and then you enter the date that the service was actually attained on. Now, you can do this when you enter the referral, so if you're backfilling it or you know you did the referral and the person got the service, you can do this right when you create it. Or you can go back one at a time and basically update the ones that were attained. Now, we also have this feature here. Instead of going back and clicking on each referral and updating them, because it's something that you may have to do at the end of the month or basically when data is being looked over, we actually have these open fields here and this filter. So what you can do is we got the filtered by all referrals, assisted, and attained. So if you clicked on all the assisted, the system basically is only going to show all the referrals that are only assisted. And you can, instead of loading them, just type in what the actual attained date is, and you kind of go down for all the ones that you've attained. And when you hit Save All, the system will basically do a batch edit where it'll update all the referrals to attain. So that's a kind of nice feature, so you don't have to click through 10, 20, 30 referrals one at a time, fill in a date, hit Save All, and your data is basically updated. And that's pretty much in a nutshell what the services and referrals provided are. It's a pretty easy click and enter kind of a process. What we are going to go into now, quickly back to the PowerPoint, is the exit information. Once you've done the enrollment and added all the services and referrals the client has, once the client has finished the program stay or is no longer receiving services, that's when in the system you basically need to exit them or discharge them from the program in the system. And of course, like our notes there, make sure all the services and referrals have been updated, make sure all the referrals have been attained as well. And it's a lot like the enrollment process. It kind of takes you through a loop, but the data is a little bit less, more of outcome-based when entering it into the system. So we're going to go back in, another demo here, back into the program area. And right here under the assessment information, as you can see, it's labeled Exit from Program. Pretty straightforward. When you're ready to go, have him to exit, all you have to do is click that button, and then the system basically is going to take you, it doesn't do any data validation like it does in the enrollment, but basically as you see here, you've got the assessments again where you can enter in their point-in-time well-being information that you've collected at exit. Now, for the PATH program, while the health is required at entry, per the rules, no data, assessment data, is actually required to be collected as exit. But you can collect it if you redo their health or income or education or employment. Feel free to enter that information there. And you've used the same save and next or next to skip as explained in the enrollment. Now, a couple other features I want to show during this is we have a show last assessment button in some of the assessments that if you have a previous assessment, now the health does because we did it at the enrollment, it'll basically give you a little list here that shows the most recent data that you've collected. So if you're going through the system and you said, well, I know none of his data's changed, instead of going through the files, you can click this up, open it up, and you can kind of move it around. Therefore, you can copy the answers or use it as kind of a template for what information you want to enter. Now, if that assessment data has been entered based on the assessment date within 30 days, we actually allow you to import the data into the actual assessment. Since this was just entered on 8/1, it's only 8/8, that's only 7 days old, you can click the import button and it'll automatically import a lot of the information into the system so that you can just quickly copy it or update it and move on. So we're going to say that he has just exited today. He hit save and exit. It's going to do the same prompt. And basically you can go through and fill out, because we did the education earlier as well, that's why it's there. Basically go through the system in the same fashion. And you can also skip around, say you're like, oh, I want to see, I messed up, what is the health information? You can always go back and change information. As well as you can do the next, if you know you're not going to fill out any, you can just jump straight to the benefits tab and then just hit next assessment to kind of quickly jump through the system. It's very flexible in keeping data in its place. Now, this is what we call the final exit screen. This is the last step of the process, and it basically only has 3 data elements. Exit data, that's the last day the client is in the program, last day the client's receiving services, as well as then the reason for leaving, as well as destination, which are basically outcome measures. You pick the one that's most appropriate, and then all you have to do is hit the save button, and that's pretty much it. Now, as you can see now, this program record was updated. Anyone that's got an entry and an exit date, you know that that program is closed out and he's no longer in your program. Now, of course, if the client comes back, you've got to go through the process again, and you can re-enroll them into the same program or another program into the system. Now, quickly going to show you back here with the assessments. Because we recorded a health assessment, of course, it's going to be thrown into the assessment area. And as you can see here, it's kind of each section is broken into a current section and a historic section. So every assessment that you collect in the system will be here. Now, the current one is the latest date. So this one is the one we just did, and it's the exit, which has the latest information. Now, the historic ones can build up depending on how many you do, how many programs you're entered into. And to load it, all you have to do is click it, and then the information will load in read-only format, and you kind of do the same thing where you can click update, delete it, update that information as well. And of course, just make sure, again, you know what assessment you're on by the program date. So if you're editing or looking at information, you know which information that you're looking at so you don't edit the wrong information. Kind of the same thing with the assessments. It also has a follow-up, which is kind of like the during enrollment. This is all optional, but if you want to collect assessments after they've left, if you're doing follow-ups, that's the way to do it, as well as we also have an exit assessment to backfill exit assessments, just like entry. It's almost kind of the same exact processes. Okay, the next thing we want to go into is basic data client sheets. We actually have a couple client utilities. There's a client data sheet as well as a global data sheet. We'll kind of show you examples. The client data sheet is provided local data collected at your agency. It's a nice little snapshot of profile assessment and program data there, while a global data sheet is information that is pieced together from all shared data throughout the agency. Now, you'll always see a client data sheet. You'll only see a global data sheet if the client has been to an agency other than your own, because we're not just going to show you the same information that you already have at your agency. It's basically only going to be there if there's like, hey, there's some extra information that you might want to take a look at. Now, both of them are basically up here in the, up right next to the program and services area. And you click on the client data sheet, and here's basically the layout where it's got client profile information, assessment information, and it's got the programs here where you can click on them, kind of gives you a quick snapshot of their data. You can quickly print it out if you want for your records, kind of a nice little one-stop shop for all their data at your agency. Now, this Benjamin Smith actually does have a global data sheet, because I mentioned earlier that I kind of created him in another agency so you could kind of see that mixture of data. It basically shows the global data, and then here shows all the contributing clients. As you can see, you've got one in the PATH agency and one in this other housing service agency, which is outside your data, or outside your agency. And you can click on them, and each agency kind of has their own data sheet where you can see, oh, well, he's also been in an emergency shelter program between, earlier this year, along with my PATH program. So that's kind of a way that you tie together what services and programs the client has been at throughout other agencies in the system. And again, it's all shared information, so it is up to the individual clients, again, what information is shared throughout the system through this data sheet. And it can be printed out just like the client data sheet. So those are good places to kind of get extra information in the system. Another quick note, we do have a client delete utility. It's probably not going to be used very often. You only want to use that if you mistakenly enter a client into the system. If it is a duplicate, we have that merge logic where you can duplicate it. One note about the client delete, we actually, as you go through the process, there's probably about 4 or 5 prompts of are you sure? Because once you delete a client, there's no way to get it back. So you want to make sure that you are positive that you want to get rid of that client before you use it.
You mentioned delete versus exit.
As Dan just said, there's a very, very big difference between delete and exit. If a client has left your program and you do that exit process, that data should stay in the system forever. I mean, it's historical data, even if it's 3 years old. We want that data. You don't delete them. Deletion is only used for, oh, I just entered a client, and another caseworker just entered it in on accident, so I just want to quickly get rid of that other client because it's a mistaken entry. So I want to make sure everybody understands the distinction between exit and delete.